Hi, my name is Tamara Wood, and today I'm going to explain the top things that you need to do while interpreting for a deaf-blind. Within these examples, I'm going to give you things you should and should not do with a deaf-blind person. The first tip I want to give you is if you are interpreting for the deaf-blind, there are a few colored shirts that I recommend that you wear. The first one is black. Second would be forest green, possibly a maroon colored shirt, a navy blue, and then the last color, possibly a dark brown. If you are a darker skinned individual, I would recommend using the colors baby blue for a shirt, or gray or white. The second tip, it is very important to keep your hands clean. You will always want to bring hand sanitizer with you at all times, especially when you are tactile interpreting. I know that the deafblind person does not want to touch dirty hands. I just want to let you know. For the third tip, if you're trying to get the deafblind person's attention, you will put your hand under theirs and lift it up. That will let the deafblind person know that you are ready to have a conversation. After you are done, it is the deafblind person's decision to say if they want to go ahead with the conversation or if they would like to talk to you later. It is the deafblind person's decision. You do not want to force them. The next step is if you are leaving, you will want to make sure that you notify the deafblind person that you are with that you are leaving. The next step is suppose there is an emergency. The best way to go about this is to draw a large X on their back and then assist them out the door. The last thing you want to do is just grab their arm and pull. This can definitely scare your client, and you only want to do this situation during emergencies. The next step is making sure that the interpreter or yourself is close enough so that you can ask questions. You want to make sure you ask the client where you want them to sit. Do you want them to sit further or closer, and which works best with them? You want to make sure you are able to see the person. The next step is very important, and it is about leading your client. So you want to make sure that when you are walking into a room, you explain the territory around you, what's going on. Suppose someone is leading me, and we're like in a place or a restaurant. I would prefer them to explain the surroundings, where the tables are and everything are. The next thing is if you are explaining where the chair is for a deaf-blind person when you go into a room, you want to lead them to the chair, and then with one of their hands, you will guide it to the arm or the back of the chair, and then the other hand, you will let them feel where you sit down. And this is very important. The very last step that I want to talk about is that sometimes deafblind, can't see their food and they don't understand where it is located on their food. Something that works for me is if you set it up on the plate in a clock, in what looks to be like a clock. So for example, I will have a friend tell me that the meat is at 12 o'clock, that there's corn at 3, and then at 9 o'clock there could possibly be like bread. And it's all placed significantly onto this plate. And it's related to a clock so that I can understand. And suppose a person is fully deafblind, they will also know where their food is on the plate. So now I'm going to go into some details of things that have kind of made me upset or irritated me throughout my life. So one time I had an interpreter and she was wearing, or she was wearing a bright red shirt. And I kind of told that interpreter to not come back. I said, sorry, I just cannot accept this. It's very challenging to understand and it's distracting. So I recommend not wearing a red shirt. Another thing that has bothered me throughout my life, that tends to happen quite often, is a lot of people ask me if I can live by myself. And absolutely, yes, I can live by myself. I live independently and freely. There's things like within or in this world that give me independence, and that is one of them, as I can live on my own. And people always bother me with this question. Another time, a person that came up to me and didn't really know much about deafblind or deafblind people, and she asked me if I could live alone. And I said, of course. What do you expect? I use a walking stick to get around. I also use low visual technology to assist me. I also use many other aids, like Get a Kitchen aid I use in the kitchen. I also use different things to help me out throughout the day. Another thing that kind of makes me mad is when people tend to scream at me and they ask me if I can read their lips. And I kind of tell them, no, I am deafblind. I cannot read your lips. And they tend to get real close and they ask me the same thing, can you read my lips? And it happened one time I went into a doctor's office and she asked me if I could read her lips. And I just told her no. I was like, I can't even see your face or your mouth. So I've told these people many, many times throughout my life that I cannot read lips. I cannot see. I am deafblind. So growing up, I was born deafblind. I had German measles when I was younger, and that is what caused my deafblindness. So growing up, my parents had made many decisions for me, and they decided that for schooling, they would put me into a mainstream school, so a public school. So I went in to this school all the way to high school, and then I ended up going to a blind institute. And there I joined many different sports. One of my favorite things to do while there was the swimming team. We actually ended up having an international swimming team league, and we went to Spain and many other places. And when we went to Spain, we actually won some, sorry, wrong song, medals. We won a medal for going to Spain and swimming. So we ended up coming back, and I still swim as well. There's also another sport that I enjoy, and it is karate. I recently joined, and a lot of people can't imagine that deafblind can do karate, but it is possible. I do it. And I've told my friends that I can do it. I can do karate. I really enjoy it. Another thing is that I enjoy is I really meeting a lot of different people, both internationally as well as other people in America. I like to meet people who have not had any experience with deafblind education or just the experience of a deafblind. I love sharing information on that and educating them. It's really important to continue the education of deafblindness to other people. So I graduated from a school locally here, and then I ended up transferring to Gallaudet in 2009. So during the protests, there were some organizations being developed. It was a deaf-blind club, was being developed during the time of the protests, and I had joined during that time to help improve and build this organization. It was to service the deafblind students as well as also the community. Sorry. Um, we would meet many other deafblind people as well in the community as well as school. So people always as we kind of assume that we always really like meeting new people. The National Blind Association of the Deaf, we support people all over the place and all over the country. Sometimes we support people internationally as well. And we can teach and help other countries and how they can develop these kinds of clubs for themselves and in their communities for the deafblind. We also have state committees, in Illinois has one. And theirs started during the deafblind retreat. And the retreat started, and I hadn't really fully decided if I was going to be going and become a staff member. But, it was my plan to kind of think about it a little bit. I was definitely interested. So that summer, the retreat was going on, and I was hoping that I could go, and that was the plan. So in Kentucky, I joined a group, and I can't really remember exactly the city in Kentucky, but it was somewhere in Kentucky. And we went to many different organizations. It was a kind of a conference. It was on Kings Island. And it was many activities that you could go and look around at all these vendors and performers. And I kind of feel a little bit bad for my SSP because she had to sit there and interpret everything, horseback riding and different things that we did that weekend. But it's okay. They didn't really mind. So we went to many different workshops within this convention or meeting, and I like workshops on technology because I grew up with some technology and it's been skyrocketing since I've been born, and it's just something I really like. There was also a sports competition going on at the same time. They were competing on whose technology was better. So we were going through looking at all the vendors. And during that convention, I took down some notes and I kind of decided which one that I might like. Kind of thinking about which one I might get in the future.